All right. Good morning. Thank you for joining us for your morning wake up call with Tristan and Michael. We are excited that you're going to spend the next hour here with us for inspiration and conversation. We discuss news, entertainment, finance, business, and relationships, answer your calls and emails, and get your day started right. So hop on, tell your friends to hop on, and let's join the conversation. We're going to start off this morning with our morning inspiration.
All right. So, just in case you didn't hear last week, so every morning I try to get up and really just try to feed myself with some music and just kind of get my mind right for the day. And it just allows me to kind of put the things that happened maybe yesterday or last week behind me and really primarily focus on today. So today I really just I've been thinking about this. I'm like, you know what? Some of the things that I want to achieve are really pretty good things, right? But a lot of times we're driving towards something, but we don't necessarily always feel fulfilled. We may feel accomplished, but not fulfilled. And it really allows us to, if we get to the point where I'm trying to get this new job, I'm trying to get this house, I'm trying to help my kids to get to college or get this good grades, which is all good. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's really that's something really good. But and then at the end of the day, I know I speak for myself is that I ultimately feel accomplished in those things, but a lot of times I don't feel fulfilled, and that's something really I want maybe people to kind of maybe going through something similar, where what you may feel accomplished once you get to that next level, whether it's a college degree or what I got this new house or this new car or these new clothes, whatever you're trying to get, and then you're like, what, I still need something else. I get that, and I still need something else. So maybe the idea is that what, you have to do something potentially maybe bigger than yourself, right? It's okay to achieve things that that you want, but what about things that are outside of yourself, even outside of your family? Is what you are trying to do, is it bigger than you? Is it bigger than your family? I think those things ultimately give you that fulfillment versus just the accomplishment feeling of saying, what, now I got to go to do something else to get that next thing.
Mm. Is it bigger than you? So hit us up. What are you doing? It's just bigger than you. It's bigger than your goals, or what you want for yourself. So thank you, Michael, for our morning motivation. All right, so we're gonna jump into our first topic. We are discussing politics. The first presidential debate is tonight.
Yep.
Um, for this year, looking at the president for the next 4 years. We have a lot of stuff on the table. So we are looking at, coronavirus and the economy, the integrity of the electoral system, violence, and kind of all the things that have been happening. There's a lot that they have to talk about. So,
Yeah.
Michael, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think the debate is it's going to be huge, right? Because I think a lot of people are kind of trying to figure out, okay, how is Joe Biden and President Donald Trump going to really interact with one another, right? Because we know, President Trump, he's straight on. Is he going to go completely in, or is he going to try to take a political route of really how the discussion and debate's going to go? And really, for me, that I'm trying to see how is Joe Biden going to stand up whenever Trump starts coming at him. My prediction is that, what, I think Trump is going to try to, go in and say, what, whether he's too old or his politics are too far to the left and all of this. And how is Joe Biden going to counteract that?
Yeah, well, I think intellectually, Joe Biden is just I think that he's got it together.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to be careful because we have people on both sides that listen to us. So they either on the rebroadcast or jumping online now. But I think that he knows what he's talking about.
Right.
I think that comes with experience. But I also my concern, as is a lot of people, is that he processes things at like a slower rate.
Right.
Where Trump is just real quick and sarcastic and kind of he has a lot of quips. So unlike the last presidential debates when Trump was had a whole different group of people that he was kind of talking to, even when he was debating Hillary Clinton, he is kind of able to kind of throw some, I think, kind of low blows.
Yeah.
And I don't know what those would be necessarily for Biden, because if we're talking about experience, there's a lot. So let's kind of jump into some of like the topics. So
Mm-hmm.
first thing on the list, coronavirus. Yesterday we hit over 1 million people
Wow.
that have passed
It's been
away
1 million for real?
from coronavirus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So United States is leading in this, which is kind of ironic and strange given that we generally believe that you know, we can kind of fix everything.
Right.
So thoughts on that coronavirus? You know, how are they going to have this conversation? How are they going to have this dialogue?
I mean, I think if we're talking about how they want to debate it, right? I think Joe Biden has to say, you know what, you fell short, President Trump, and really how you handled it. You really fell short in really trying to say, okay, we could have did something proactively in really addressing this issue and getting ahead of it versus waiting, 2 months, whatever, to really to try to face it head on.
Well, one of the things that Trump might have in his back pocket is they talked about, I can't remember which comedian, so I'm not even going to say a name because I can't remember, but said that the Democrats were so focused on impeachment that they missed the opportunity to really capitalize on that time advantage prior to coronavirus happening.
Yeah, I mean, so if you say, okay, so you're saying, say that question again, you're basically saying the impeachment.
Well, yeah, so I'm just saying some of the, you try to anticipate in Pontificate, what are they going to pull out?
Right.
So one of the things that has kind of recently come up as of maybe a week or two ago is that while the Democrats were trying to move through the impeachment process for Trump, coronavirus took hold in the United States. And so he could potentially, if his people are smart, they could really use that to say like, well, wait a minute, I would have been on top of the coronavirus thing, but the Democrats were attacking me and I had to defend myself. So I had to spend more energy defending myself from, the potential of impeachment versus really using this time to invest into coronavirus research.
Yeah, I mean, potentially he could say that, but I think that's just as placing blame, right? Of
Right,
like
but that's
not
what he's. I'm just saying, like part of it is deflecting. Like, no, that's a lot of politics in general has kind of become deflecting. So I'm just wondering how that conversation is going to go if it comes up in terms of, hey, coronavirus, big thing, because Joe Biden could very well say, hey, you know what? It's been a lot that's happened. You failed in this area, and it's kind of still a split. Okay, another topic they might jump into, the economy. Talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, so the economy, so it's kind of been a crazy year, right? A crazy, actually, maybe even the last few years leading up to what we are headed into now. I mean, President Trump wants to maybe take credit for some of the positive things that have happened in the last couple of years.
Of course,
somebody may say, you know what? Well, Obama kind of set it up for him to kind of take advantage of it, but he's probably going to try to take tip his hat.
He already has.
I'm just saying. I'm talking about in the debate.
Okay.
He's going to say, it's my economy. And Joe Biden has figured out, okay, well, how do you address that? Because you know what? He has been president. And typically every president that has a good economy, they don't care what the last one did. They're going to take credit. If it's good, it's good.
Right.
But to me, it has to be equal footing of saying, okay, if something has gone bad, coronavirus, the protests, some of the things that have gone on in addition to just outside of the economy, you got to take that on too. You can't pick and choose.
That never happens.
Well, no,
I don't think I've ever seen in a political situation somebody really own, hey, these negative things happen in my presidency. Like, and that's not just presidency. I think that's people. Like, I think us as people don't want to say like, oh, well, I own all this negative. I think that's hard for us to say, in addition to most of us want to look at the positive things and say, well, look at all the good that we did. Like, I know I didn't take out the trash, but I at least put my plate in the sink or something. Like, you don't want to say, I didn't take out the trash. You're right. I apologize. So I don't see that happening, because there's been a lot that's happened in the economy. A lot of it due to coronavirus. A lot of people lost their jobs. People, we had the economic shutdown. People were not going to work. Small businesses started closing. Then they started, giving out packages to small businesses. A lot of big businesses got a lot of that money and were able to use those funds. They had government stipends that were sent out. Obviously, I think it was, $1,200 is not enough to sustain families for any extended period of time. So there's going to be, economy's going to absolutely be a conversation. A lot of people are suffering, and that could be one of like the tipping points, you know. Another thing, electoral integrity. So Trump is saying that he is not going to, you know, not necessarily have ease and transfer of power if he loses. What do you have to say about that?
We shall see. Right? If that happens, I don't think, really honestly, I don't think whether you're a Republican or Democrat are going to allow that to take place. I don't think.
There's been a lot of stuff that's been allowed to take place that I'm surprised about.
I think that's a line, right? Where you say, you know what, if the people vote and he's voted out, I don't think the country, I don't think we're going to get that low and say, you know what, no, we're not going to really just hear what the people are saying that he's been voted out, rather.
But I don't think it's going to be, if this comes up, people, friends, family, if this comes up, I'm not sure. Because there is kind of a slick way that they could do it. It's been laid out a couple of times where basically they contest the ballots and say, we're not sure about these ballots. And because we're not sure, then we need to take this to the Supreme Court.
Yep.
The Supreme Court, we have, you know, right now there's a lot of conversation about the Supreme Court replacing the justice. So, okay, so now what are we going to do? The Supreme Court can decide, well, they're going to potentially favor Trump, which would be the hope of the Republican Party, so that he can maintain power, or there's an opportunity to kind of begin again this process. So there's there are some holes in this, and I'm not sure how that's going to go. Okay, last thing on this. The violence that's happening, you know, protests. It's been really months of protests and protesting police brutality, everything. There's just so many things that are happening. Race relations in America right now are just really coming into a new light. So I think that's going to come up.
Yeah.
I think it has to come up.
Absolutely. I personally want a president that can actually talk to people, you know what I mean? Whether they agree with them or don't agree with them, and really try to like hear their heart. Even if you necessarily can't make an instant change or something, you know, be modified in regards to, you know, what's going on, just basically, you know what, be able to talk to people and try to work some things out.
Yeah. I think being able to converse and negotiate is major in life and definitely in politics. All right. So we are going to take a quick break. But after that, we're going to discuss the damaging effects of childhood trauma on adult relationships. So our health and wellness and relationship segment is coming up right after this break. All right. Well, we are jumping into our relationship and wellness segment. So a new study finds strong relationships in adulthood won't fix the effects of early childhood adversity. According to the University of Notre Dame, the relationship between early life experiences, adult social bonds, and stress responses are linked biologically. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, but first of all, I think parenting is like kind of the ultimate responsibility. And people oftentimes may want to put other stuff, whether it's their careers, whether it's relationships, whatever have you, above what parenting is. Because like what you just read to me, I'm like, okay, my first responsibility is to be a good parent. Primarily because, you know what, I'm actually helping a person become a person that's hopefully whole.
Yeah, I think it's a big weight. And I know as we get caught up in some of the day-to-day things and the day-to-day challenges, that sometimes that can kind of like slip through the cracks. Because most of us, that we care about our children. Like we want them to be good. We want them to be stable. But I do find it interesting that some of as an adult, if you did not have a stable upbringing, and some of us didn't, but if you didn't have that, you kind of try to cope with having great adult relationships. Like, so if you didn't have stability or loyalty in your home, you try to be an extra great friend. And according to the study, that is, that's not going to fix you, quote unquote. That's not going to heal you. Like, you really have to, and we talk about this on our podcast, we talk about it here. You really do need some therapy to kind of work on those areas instead of trying to fill them with stuff that doesn't fit.
Yeah, I think it's just healthy just to maybe talk things out. I think therapy is actually, I mean, very good. I'm an advocate of therapy, but like a lot of times people necessarily don't have nobody to talk it out with, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a trust factor thing where I'm going through something, but I don't feel anybody can relate to what I'm going through. Sometimes whether that's a family member you don't trust that's close to, or even a spouse, you don't feel completely comfortable to tell them everything of how you're feeling inside, particularly men maybe. That, you know what, man, this is affecting me still, and it really affects how I see people in the world.
Yeah, I think even going to your point, going back to the family structure and having these kind of open dialogues about what happened versus trying to fix it by investing in another place, investing into another relationship. I think that's kind of a challenging and trying thing to do, because sometimes family don't want to revisit like what happened in your childhood. If there was abuse of any kind, particularly like if physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, even financial abuse. A lot of times you want to say, well, that's in the past. Why are you bringing that up? And particularly if they're the guilty party. So if you were the child and you're trying to talk to your parents about, hey, why was it like this? Or why did you do this? Right. And maybe they've transitioned or they've changed. They don't want to revisit that life. Like to say like, you know what, I was in a bad place, or I shouldn't have, or own it, kind of like we talked about before, owning it. But they might be like, hey, that was a long time ago. I don't really want to get into that. That was then, this is now. But you do need almost that reconciliation of your spirit to be able to kind of become whole, right. So that you can move forward, and then you can healthily invest in other relationships and friendships versus, kind of holding on to that internally.
Absolutely. We're saying good morning to Dwayne. We see you, baby.
Miss
seeing you and your family, man. Hope y'all are doing well. But like, just to kind of jump back on what Tristan was saying, it's like, man, to be able to really become. I think we're all evolving, hopefully, right? And I think if you got to if we're talking about relationships, people that you're around, like you want to have the right people around you to hopefully help you heal in some of those areas. Because like we've seen people, I don't care if, especially talking about, let's talk about divorces for a second. Like if you get divorced at your kids are teenagers or they're adults, we've seen it where it affects them, right? And that we're just talking about different types of trauma, but there's other types of trauma outside of divorce. But it's like, man, we got to figure out how to like work through and talk through that, because life is really still going to keep going. And ultimately, we get stuck in a place and we can't move beyond it.
Yeah. And you keep trying. I think a lot of people keep trying to move past this place, and sometimes trying to move past it without dealing with it. I think most of the time try to move through it without dealing with it. So, according to the study, we think that's just really important, that you deal with some of the challenges of your past. So let us know, drop us a comment. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how the past affects the future. Yeah. There's that scene in The Lion King. If y'all watch the original Lion King cartoon, where Rafiki hits him on the head and he's like, ow, that hurt. Yeah. Y'all know what I'm talking about. He said, ow, that hurt. And then he says like, it's in the past. Like, you shouldn't think about it. It doesn't mean that it still doesn't hurt, Yeah, that's the Lion King, man. You can take like life principles from that. You know what I mean? So we can take life principles. We talked about this before, like Pride Rock. When Scar took over Pride Rock, what happened? I'm just saying. Life principles. Yeah. But anyway, so talking about, hey, there are things in the past that can still affect you in the present, can still hurt you in the present. And instead of suppressing that, because it can affect your marital relationships, it can affect how you talk to your kids, how you work at your job. Because sometimes some of us, we're not working hard at our jobs because we like our jobs. We're working hard from our jobs because we know what it is to not have. And we're like, no, we're not going to be back there. Some people are hustling really hard, working really hard at life, at goals, at dreams. They're running towards something, but they're really running away from something, Yeah. So,
good.
We got a lot going on. Okay, so I want to jump into the next thing.
What we got?
Okay. School's starting back.
Yeah.
School's starting back. Are schools safe? All right, so that's the question we're going to have after this quick break. Are schools safe? You sending your kids to schools, what are your thoughts? You know, some of them, they need to be out the house, they need to be learning something because we're at the house, they're driving us crazy or whatever, but are schools safe? Let's talk about it right after this really quick break. All right, we're back. Thank you, Dwayne. What did he say? Dwayne say on the comments.
There you go, right there.
Okay, so the past can hurt. Rafiki, yeah. So you know what I'm
Past
talking
can hurt.
about.
It can
Come on,
hurt.
Lion King.
Can hurt.
Yeah. Okay. So jumping into all right. This segment is sponsored by School Data Tools. School Data Tools is a software platform that can offer academic dashboards for faculty and administration, contact tracing, and access to student and parent assistance for college, workforce, and military readiness. Please visit schooldatatools.info for more. So that's our sponsor for the segment. If you are interested in being a sponsor for our segments, please contact us, info@fusedmarriages.com. All right, the CDC reported on Monday the COVID virus for kids ages 12 to 17 has approximately doubled, quote unquote, since May, and that youth under 19 may be, quote, playing an increasing role in community transmission, end quote. So the question is, school is back in session.
Yep.
Are the kids safe?
Yeah, I mean, I think some people, have to send their kids back to school because they got to go to work. Mm-hmm. And I don't have an issue with necessarily people having to do that because, you basically know what, you got to make a living, you got bills and all that, right? But we know there's a virus that's out there. Mm-hmm. And the argument that I hear from people that, well, kids can be okay, right? If they get the virus, they can be okay. But the only thing I kind of disagree with is like, it could be carriers. Mm-hmm. So if they end up getting it and they pass it on to someone else that maybe is not as healthy, a grandparent, an older aunt, or something to that effect, then I'm like, I think the kids are safe, but then are they going to be able to contain that, right? Contain that activity or that virus to that particular kid?
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily, if I had the option, and in this case we actually do because we have, we're kind of working from home, but like if I had the option, I wouldn't send my kid to school just yet. But some people don't have that option, so I can't even, you got to do what you got to do what you got to do. Just try to take precautions around it.
See, I'm split because I do believe, in the educational infrastructure, mm-hmm. and I think it's important. I think teachers are really exposed to this thing because you have teachers of all ages. You have teachers that are like 23, and then you have teachers that are 63. So I think that you can really be affected by what's happening in all of this. Yeah,
I'm going to read Dwayne's comment. He says, schools are not safe. Over 500,000 children in the United States have it. In homeschooling, all six of mine, and it's rough but safe. So he's handling it. He has all his kids at home. He says a lot to deal with. We know what that's like, but he knows they're safe.
Yeah. So I think it's easier to watch your kids when they're at home, to know what they're exposed to know kind of what's going on, who they're playing with, where they are. Because I can't imagine right now being a preschool teacher or a kindergarten teacher and telling these kids to keep their mask on and to remain 6 feet. I've seen pictures and it really breaks my heart. Like what recess looks like now. Like they have a box they can play in at recess. Like there's no way I would have stayed in my box as a kid, like at all. Or I would not have shared my, my cereal or traded my sandwich, so I feel a lot for teachers. That's why I think like our sponsor for this segment, they have contact tracing. If you don't know what contact tracing is, I think that's critical. I think you have to talk to your schools, talk to your educators, talk to the administration, talk to your representatives, because what contact tracing is it's monitoring kids' health throughout the school year. So daily having reporting so that they're able to say, hey, this kid has a slight fever, or hey, this kid has been exposed in these ways. I just think that's the only way that kids can go to school. I'm split because I think education is important. A lot of us are not necessarily equipped to do it at home. But I also am concerned about the spread of the virus for the same reasons that you said, you know, other spreading it to other adults or other individuals. And then let me say this. Reporting has shown that it's disproportionately affecting minority communities, which is of great concern to me. They say there are different reasons, like how the home is structured, how we do family, how we commune and spend time with one another, the workforce. Like there are lots of effects in terms of why minority communities are affected at a higher percentage and a higher rate, not to mention things like access to medical care, you know, going to hospitals, how we feel as a people about going to hospitals. So there's just there's a lot that goes into this, and I'm not sure that we are either prepared or that people are really having the conversation. I think they kind of look at like you said, oh, kids will be fine.
Yeah.
Like, for real? Like, are they really going to be okay? These plastic borders, because this stuff hangs in the air. I mean, we're not breathing directly on each other, but I just don't see how the plastic thing is going to protect us all in a classroom. You know what I mean?
I think there's so much that we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And I think as people can say, well, I think this, I believe this, or maybe it ain't that, but you don't know.
Right.
So if I don't know, why would I put my kid in harm's way? If I had the option. Some people don't have the option. I can't, I'm not even talking about that. If I had an option, why would I put my kid in harm's way?
Yeah. So do you think that it's affecting kids psychologically to not be in the classroom, to not be able to kind of go to school and have that experience?
I think there's some truth to that too. There's some, you know, particularly if you don't have other, you know, siblings that the kid can necessarily interact with, all they have is adults. Yeah, it probably is changing how they interact and see the world a little differently. So you got to kind of compensate a little bit with that, right? And try to figure out, okay, what can I do to try to recreate, you know, the kid experience, at least for the time being. But I think, you know, we see with our own kids, I mean, they don't have as much interaction with kids, whether it's at church, whether it's at school, whether it's they don't have it. Mm-hmm. They're used to having it. Mm-hmm. And they like, man, so we got to figure out, okay, you know what? We try to do, you know, interactive videos and, you know, Duo and Zoom, all these kind of things to kind of at least recreate it to some extent, at least till this understanding of this virus gets really in a safer place.
Yeah, I'm actually almost more concerned with when we all do go back to school. Because right now a lot of schools have options where you can, you know, study from home or you can go to the classroom. So teachers are they're doing in classroom, they're videotaping themselves from the classroom. So you're on Zoom or on video chat, while also there are some students that are physically present. So I'm wondering what that looks like when all of us return, because I already know, like, I have some anxiety. So as people are going back to work and going, you know, back to church and, you know, all of this, the social distancing decreases, public gatherings are happening. I'm looking side eye at everybody. Like, I'm not too sure. Like I told Michael, when churches open back up, I'm not gonna be the first one in the pew. That's just me. Like, y'all love Jesus, y'all go on, but I'm gonna love him from home for a while. So I'm just a little bit apprehensive.
We got a comment that says Tuskegee mindset. Hey, you got to break that down. Everybody may not know what that means. He might
go on, break it down.
No, I'm just saying. I want Dwayne to go ahead and break that down. I'm saying
Tuskegee, like, for real. Like, there's so I don't want to be experimented upon.
Yeah. You
know, with the vaccine, they said they're going to rush this vaccine. Like, that doesn't even sound right. Like, we're going to rush a vaccine out by December. Yeah. I think a lot of that has to do with the presidential elections, being able to say, hey, we got a vaccine out. But I'm still like, y'all not going to practice on us. And there are HBCUs that are supporting testing on their students. I read this last week.
You got to show that article.
I'm gonna find that next Tuesday. I'm gonna have that. Yeah, they're saying, hey, you know, we're gonna try out the vaccine. We're encouraging students to do that. There's just so much going on that I don't feel comfortable personally, like, with, you know, classrooms necessarily being safe. If they do not have contact tracing, then I would personally be talking to somebody and saying, why not?
Right.
Because what are you doing if you're not tracking the potential spread of the virus in the classroom from a specific point of view, not like, oh, well, overall we seem fine, or well, we let the student know. I read an article last week that talked about in some school districts, they're really only going to let the people that were in that specific classroom know if there was a student that was there.
Right.
But okay, so we're going to grocery stores and we're wearing gloves and not touching everything and wiping down our hands. But in classrooms, a kid can get sick and get up from that desk or go touch the pencil sharpener or something, and nobody else will know. That doesn't even make sense. That's unfair to the teachers. You know,
that's a lot. It's a lot the teachers have to deal with, the schools have to deal with. I mean, because really, kids, in some states and even in parts of Texas, even, right, if the kids aren't in school, the funding is like different.
Yeah.
So they're being forced. The school's saying, okay, well, we're trying to, they got salaries for teachers and, principals and administrators, and like, okay, we don't have our kids in school, or they can't show it, whether it's either online or physically in school. That funding is a little different. So
yeah, well, some teachers are being threatened that if you don't come to the actual location, then you can't teach. And I don't think that's right, because teachers can teach. They taught all the end of last semester, and I understand the social ramifications, especially if you have kids that were involved in a lot of activities or in that transitional year from like maybe 11 years old to 17 years old. There's a lot that you're missing out on by not being present. But I'm also concerned with how this is being handled from a youth perspective, because a lot of those that are dying from this are not necessarily 14-year-olds or 15-year-olds.
Right.
They're like 60-year-olds. So I don't know, and that statistic is also changing. But I don't know that people are looking at children and saying, you know what, do we want to expose them? We're kind of looking at them like, oh, well, they're resilient. They'll make
about
it.
COVID,
but if it's your kid, though, you're not going to be like, oh, it was worth it. And that's where I am. Like, okay, if my kid got sick because I did something or because the school didn't do something, the most the school is going to say is, we are so sorry. And they're going to send out an email saying, Tristan's family was affected by this in this way. And that's not going to be good enough for me. So I don't know that I feel comfortable sending my kids to sit in a desk for 8 hours and you not have it together, you not have a plan, because that's my kid. So
would you, if that's the case, would you quit work then? So if you're a single parent, you had to go to work, and your kid basically had to choose between, okay, watch my kid or go to work. Because I mean, I guess
some people are in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't think you can. I mean, if your predicament is, I have to work, so I have to send my kid to school, then you really do have to look. My kid will be going to school smelling like olive oil, because they're gonna be anointed. Like, I'm praying over them, but I am concerned because of the people. A lot of people in that position, according to statistics, are minorities. And the concern is we're sending our kids out there because of our circumstances, and they're not necessarily safe.
Yeah.
So that's a really hard thing, but you got to put food on the table. So I don't know.
So I'm just saying,
Right,
I mean,
it's a tough
I think you
call.
got to look at it both sides, right? And I think all the time we often go to one side or the other because that's where we can kind of fit in. It's like, man, we got to figure out, okay, some people don't have that option. And like, to say that they should or shouldn't send their kid, like, you know what, we just got to be, okay, you know what, they may have to, but could they do such precaution? Could they follow up with the school, understand what contact tracing is? Do the schools have it in place? I mean, there's
That's why I said, if your school does not have contact tracing, talk to your representative, talk to your principals, because that for me would be the only way I would send my children to the actual classroom. And again, I understand the ramifications socially, from an intellectual perspective, like obviously not experientially, but they are missing something socially. They're missing sitting at the football games and cheering on their teams, or going to the homecoming dance, or getting ready for school in the morning. Like, there is something that they're missing, but I want my kids safe. Now, if you're in a situation where you have to go to work, you have to go to work. Like, you got to put food on the table, like, because you don't want them to die of starvation. And the government is certainly not handing out, WIC right now. So there are choices that have to be made. That's a tough one.
Yep.
That's a tough one. Holler at us, talk to us either on the replay or jump online right now. We want to hear from you. We want to know what your thoughts are.
Yep.
What's up?
No, I was gonna read a comment. It says using our brown and black babies to test the unknown by sending them back to the classroom to see how they hold up with no information. Some people feel that way, right? It's like, man, are our kids being being just kind of the test dummies for the situation?
Yeah, because whoever wrote the comment, you're right. There is no information. There's just like, hey,
Mr.
go back
Whitfield.
to school because holla, because they going into the classroom. We have school, so y'all go. And other people, no, my kid's gonna stay home. Yeah. We got the technology to do it. Because some in our communities don't necessarily have access to the technology. Right. To not go to the classroom. So that just speaks of how economic disparity is affecting even our exposure in the health realm. Right. So it's just, there's injustice everywhere at this point. So so that's a big one we'll probably be revisiting in the future, but we are going to move over to some talk about sports. So right after this song, we are going to look at Deion Sanders, head coach for Jackson State. I'm curious. So right after this, we're going to talk about that. All right, in sports talk, Deion Sanders is now the head coach for Jackson State University. A lot of talk about this going on, looking at all aspects of this. So, Michael, jump in. I want to get into this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about, Mr. Sanders being able to, land a coaching position. I'm curious how is that going to change the landscape potentially in recruiting. Right? Not saying, okay, if I'm a dad and I have, 15, 16-year-old football player and Deion calls me up, hey, I want to at least have your son. I want to talk to your son about playing. I'm at least going to listen. I don't care if I got a 5-star, they got star ratings, so 5 stars are the highest for recruits. If I have a 5-star football player in my household and Deion calls, I'm at least going to listen.
Yeah.
He may not go, but he going to at least, okay, you got my ear. What are you trying to build there? Yeah, how are you going to help my son?
Yeah, I love it. I am very curious what this is going to do to the landscape of college coaching across the board and what precedent this sets. Because it's not that a lot of college athletes can't also be coaches, but you have these all-stars, these very famed or loved individuals. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, this could bring money to my school. Right. So it's not just about the ability to coach, but it's about the ability to fill the stands. Right. If Deion Sanders is coaching, bet money. People are going to go see just to see what he does. People that would never go to Jackson State. And not saying anything's wrong with Jackson State, holla, you good. But people that might not ever go are just going to go just to see. So I can see a lot of schools and universities spending money to recruit these big name coaches versus necessarily big name players, just because the people are going to follow those coaches and be curious about what the coach is going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think ultimately it's going to be about winning. Can he go there and win, right? Can he get enough players, enough support coaching staff to build a program and win?
Do you think he can?
I think he can. I absolutely think he can. First of all, he knows the game, right? I think he can connect. Really, college athletics and coaching is about connecting with families. So if you can connect with families, you have a shot at getting some of the better kids.
Wait, hold up. Back up. Talk me through that. What do you mean connecting with families?
No, so basically if you're recruiting, a college coach is really like, it almost like a CEO, right?
Yeah.
Of an organization, and they're the face of that particular, really school, particularly when you talk about football. And that coach represents that school. And if he's personable, he has good ideas. He can't be Bill Belichick and be a college coach. Right.
Okay.
Bill Belichick is the coach of the New England Patriots. If you ever seen him on TV, he has this he just real kind of
stoic.
Yeah, stoic and got this mean look to him, whatever. So he would never be a good college coach. But so in college, the coaches that are most successful are the ones that are engaging, energetic, that can relate to the families and the kids. And I think you look at Deion, he has that, right?
Yeah.
He has that. He put on that primetime smile. I got your babies. You know what? I'm gonna be. You know what? You daddy. I see how you are. I'm gonna be that daddy. What way he go? You know what I mean? You can see how he's gonna kind of give that spiel and like, man, okay. You know what? I'm gonna come. I'm gonna check you out.
Yeah, I think this is so dope. I love everything about it. I am a Deion fan. You know, I think he's just a cool dude. I've watched him. You know, from football. You know, we are from Texas, so you know, those of us from Texas, there are some people we just like. You know, Deion is on that list. Emmitt Smith is on that list. You know, they're just people that are like, man, we down for them, and so I'm down for Deion. What's going on?
No, Dwayne says he loves it. Definitely will steal some players from the SEC top 10 players. So SEC is just the Southeastern Conference, the Alabamas, the LSU. They're part of that conference, which is supposed to be, you know, the Power Five of the big boys. He's saying that, you know what, some players gonna be like he gonna get some of those players.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. He's definitely gonna get some players. He's gonna. I'm curious what his coaching staff is gonna look like. There was a report that was true that was false, but I loved it when it came out when they were talking about T.O. I'm also a T.O. fan. I know how people feel, but I like T.O.
It was fake news, wasn't it?
It was fake news. I was so sad about that because I wanted, you know, I wanted him to do that because I love it. I love this idea of what that could look like. I love the idea of these pro athletes coming and teaching these guys, not just the game, but the life, you know, like, hey man, you need to watch out for this. You need to look out for this. You need to talk through this. So I just think this is going to be a really, really exciting time in college sports.
Yeah. No, I mean, Deion has been through a lot, seen a lot. I think he's evolved even as a, you know, as a person as he is from you know, from college to the championships he's won in NFL to now doing different things, whether he's coaching here in Dallas area, actually, you know what I mean, at a high school as well. So, I mean, kind of, he dealt with that, you know what I mean? So I think he would be a good fit for Jackson State. He will be a good fit, rather, for Jackson State and hopefully for college football as a whole.
Okay, so I believe it's a 2-year contract, right?
Is it 2 years?
It's something like that. Yeah. So do you think he can do it? Do you think that they're going to start winning, or do you think it's going to take some time? You know, because there are seasoned college coaches that don't come right out of the gate winning games. Like, what do you think that looks like?
It's all about players. I mean, with college athletes in particular, I mean, coaching is good, but if you got to get you don't have the players, it's hard to win. So with that being said, I think he can get the players. He may, like I said, if we go with the comment just made, you know, he's gonna get some of those SEC type players that are gonna be, you know what, trickling in on. They may not get a whole lot, but you get a few of them, you're gonna win.
Okay.
So I think,
what's your prediction?
I'm predicting, once the season right now, I'm not sure they even playing a full season yet, but once he gets everything started program, I'm predicting he's gonna win at least 8-9 games a year.
Okay. That's what
he
we say.
He has to though. I think in order to,
they're not gonna fire him.
No,
they're just gonna let that contract play out.
Yeah, they let it play out. But I think he could actually start something, right? People start looking at different ways of who could coach, who can't coach. We need more athletes like Deion that, you know, that can relate to our kids in a way that, that's relatable.
Yeah. I'm curious. You know, our top fans out there, let us know what you think. Because there's a lot going on in the world, but that brings us to the end of our show this morning. Thank you, family, for joining us. We are going to do our heart check. I know for some of y'all it's kind of cheesy, but it's important to me. It's important for us. So go ahead and lay your hand on your heart. Feel that heartbeat. We talked about this in our morning motivation. You know, if your heart is still beating, you still have purpose. You still have calling. You still have destiny. So don't give up on your life. There's a lot of stress going on, but just make sure that you pray it through, you talk it through, you work it out, because you're here for a purpose with a purpose. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us this morning. I just want to remind you that you are great, that you are important, that you are filled of purpose, talent, and abilities. We look forward to hearing from you on all of our social media platforms at FusedMarriages.com or at FusedMarriages on Insta, on Facebook, everywhere that you want to hear us, we are there. We'll be back next Tuesday from 6 to 7 a.m. for your morning wake-up call with Tristan and Michael. Be sure to check out our podcast. Our podcast is coming back for season 2 on October 18th.
October 18th, Relationship Talk.
October 18th, Relationship Talk. And we have a lot to talk about in season 2. So check us out, and we look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday, 6 to 7 for your morning wake-up call. Take care. Have
It's
a great
early,
week.
but some of y'all get up though.
It's
some
early.
Some of y'all trickling in at 7. But it's 6 a.m. We got
wake up or watch the rebroadcast.
Because we got our kids. We gotta make sure our kids stay asleep. We can't start at 7. They start getting up morning. Captain Crunch and Honey Nut Cheerios.
Look, we be in here with the kids trying to do our morning wake up call.
Yeah.
So that is all for our show tonight. We look forward to seeing, or this morning, we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you for joining us. Bye.